What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Mr. Dan here, and today we're going to take a look at some of my favorite black and white movies that I own in my collection. This video was inspired by a video that Stuart George did about a month ago on Stuart George's Home Movies channel. Stuart's over in the UK. He did his top 30 black and white movies. Make sure you go check out that video and make sure you check out his channel. It was really brilliant stuff. Great idea for a video. And tag, everybody's it. Everybody in the community, anybody that hears this and wants to do, their top 5, their top 10 videos, black and white videos in their collection, go ahead. Just make sure you give Stuart George's Home Movies credit for the idea, because it's a great idea. So, years ago I used to work in a video store, and sometimes I would put on, safe for work movies, and sometimes I would even put on modern movies that just happen to be in black and white. Sometimes I would be watching older black and white movies. With The Wizard of Oz being the first mainstream big movie that was in color, there was about 20 years after that. I'm not even going to get into what the first color film was. I don't want to create any arguments. But about 20 years after that, it was common to have both. Eventually, your mainstream movies were typically in color, but some directors chose to film their movies in black and white, and I have a few of those on my list here on purpose. So anyway, it used to drive me nuts when the customers would come in to drop off their VHS tapes and say, "Oh, look at that! That's a moldy oldie." Oh man, it used to drive me nuts. The black and white films can be striking; they can be beautiful. Some of my favorites just happen to be of the era when they were in black and white. Some of them are more modern films, where the director went the black and white route for specific reasons. So I have a few of those in here as well. Anyway, let's get to it. I'm going to go in rough order. I didn't really look up the years. I just stacked them in about rough order. I'm going to start with some Universal monsters. I mean, I could pretty much put all of them in all the main ones on the list, but we'll go with The Invisible Man, okay? I'll be reviewing this soon on the channel, and the book, as I just finished the novel by H.G. Wells. We'll go with the original, The Invisible Man. Just brilliant stuff. The effects look great in black and white. Fantastic film all around. Really, if you're a fan of the other ones, but you haven't seen that one in a while, go check it out. It's really good stuff. It blew me away upon rewatching it. Next, old school horror, The Dead of Night. I'm not going to say the first anthology horror film. I'm not really sure, but certainly one of the first. Some of these stories have been reproduced in other films. It still works. It's still effective. All the segments are really good. It's got a nice wraparound kind of a segment. It stars Googie Withers. I just like saying Googie Withers. But really solid horror anthology, and a very interesting one if you're a fan of those. Next, growing up, I was all over sci-fi. If you would ask me, hey, what's your favorite genre, young Mr. Dan, I probably would have said science fiction. I may have said like monsters or giant monsters or something like that. Well, sometimes they were all conflated together. So I've got a couple of them here. The original, The Thing from Another World. Okay. Starring Kenneth Tobey. I think a lot of people dismiss this as like a schlocky film from the 50s that doesn't touch John Carpenter's version. I like to think of them as two different versions of the source material, two very different visions. Technically, of course, the second one would be a remake. I mean, I guess you could say that. But this film, it's a better film than people give it credit for, and I just have fond memories of watching it on TV anytime it came on. My dad was explaining to me who James Arness was, and it was a fun movie to watch with my dad. He had seen it in the theater when he was a kid, and there's certain parts of it that made him jump. Okay, next, I have reviewed this one on my channel. Please check it out. The original, The Day the Earth Stood Still. What a classic. Another one, anytime it came on, I was there. Fantastic looking film, starring Michael Renhead. When he's out walking at night, it looks really good. Just a really great film. And I've reviewed this one recently, the next one. Speaking of the UK, this next one is one I reviewed recently for my 13 Days of Horror countdown in October. And it's the original Village of the Damned. Okay, this is a very short film, but just an absolute classic. It's creepy. I think it's creepier in black and white. If there was a hypothetical color version to compare it to, the black and white version would be creepier. Creepy kids. What can you say? Next, let's go back to some Universal. I went out of my way to put some comedies on the list here because I think, when people think about classic black and white movies, you might overlook some of the comedies. But what can you say? Abbott and Costello was on TV all the time when I was a kid. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. What a treat to see some of the Universal monsters back. Lon Chaney Jr. has some pretty extensive scenes with Abbott and Costello as Lawrence Talbot. And, all the monster scenes are done somewhat seriously. So it was actually a pretty thrilling movie and funny to watch as a child. Next, we have a real classic, one that I remember watching with the family whenever it came on. This is Zorro. And this is The Mark of Zorro. This is the one starring Tyrone Power and Basil Rathbone as his nemesis, Captain Pasquale. Fantastic fencing duel at the end. Relatively short, but just thrilling stuff. Just always grabbed me when I was a kid. He really is almost like a masked superhero, right? So, great stuff. Next, we have to have some film noir, right? Because that's film noir is, that's the definition. The definition fits, doesn't it? So we're going to start with the classic. Let's just go with Detour. I have it on a few compilations. It's on this 10 classic crime dramas. It's about 68 minutes long, starring Tom Neal. Just a classic story of the worst couple days of a guy's life. Getting mixed up with a mysterious woman with bad intentions. Here goes. I'm also going to pick Kansas City Confidential. It's on this 3 DVD collector's set. There's Lee Van Cleef there. He plays a goon in the film, as does Jack Elam, and this also stars John Payne. This is a really tense thriller, film noir. It's really good stuff. Kind of blew me away. Hadn't really heard of it until recently, but really good stuff. Next, we're going to go to Japan. What can you say? Classic. Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. Just a classic film in black and white. Looks beautiful. Fantastic cinematography. What can you say? Now, I'm going to throw in some honorable mentions of some films that I don't have in my collection. Okay? So the honorable mentions will be ones that I don't own. So as far as Kurosawa goes, Throne of Blood, his version of Macbeth. That's actually the film that made it on most critics' top 50 greatest films of all time. Looks gorgeous in black and white. The woman that plays the Lady Macbeth type character has these, they've got these painted on eyebrows in the top of their forehead, like this woman from the next film I'm going to talk about. Just creepy stuff. Just looks fantastic in black and white. And the next film is one I picked up recently by Kaneto Shindo, Koronenko. Beautiful film. Absolutely beautiful. Stunning in black and white. This film has to be in black and white. It would not have been as effective if it wasn't. Not only, look at that cat. Koronenko is like an evil spirit type of cat. And this is about samurais in feudal Japan being waylaid by ghosts. Really good stuff. Fantastic visuals. The forest, the bamboo forest in this just looks like incredible. Let me just show you this one. There's a scene where somebody does a flip over a samurai riding a horse. I don't know. If they composited that together, the stark black and white, I'm sure made that a lot easier. I'm not even sure if anyone did a flip. Maybe they just took the camera and they moved it. Or maybe somebody did do a flip. And then they composited that with the horse. Or maybe somebody did do a flip over a horse. I don't know. But you can't tell. And that's because the black and white aspect of it is so darn good. Not to mention the fact that you have still great. Koronenko. Next, Stanley Kubrick's Paths of Glory, starring Kirk Douglas. Classic film about cowardice and leadership and sacrifice in World War I. What can you say? Stanley Kubrick, classic film. Next, jumping ahead a little bit, a couple years. Why am I showing you a collection of Halloween music? Because the special feature on it was Night of the Living Dead. What can you say? People back then, were in the late 60s, were seeing all kinds of bad news on their TVs, often on little black and white televisions. And the film, that's how the film feels. It works so well in black and white. Fantastic stuff. Next, another comedy, Young Frankenstein, totally inspired that Mel Brooks went the black and white route, and the fact that he found the original scientific equipment used by the Dr. Frankenstein character in the original film. He rented it from the owner, the guy that owned it, and it just looks fantastic. Beautiful looking film. A lot of people overlook that. You know, they focus on the funny bits and the comedy. By the way, rest in peace, Terry Garr, of course. But it's a great looking film, too. And it works so well in black and white. Next. This is a film that was intentionally made in black and white in, I believe, 1980. What can you say? Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull. Just fantastic. Starts out in the 1940s, goes up through the 60s. You know, in the 1940s, we were watching. I've never seen an old film, an old boxing match. And I do watch a lot of old boxing matches sometimes, you know, Jack Dempsey and so forth. Jake LaMotta. And they're always in black and white, so that felt totally appropriate. And then the boxing scenes in the smoky arena, the fights between him and Sugar Ray Robinson, it's just brilliant stuff. And the black and white aspect works so well. Next, now Stuart had Schindler's List on his list. And by the way, yes, there is a brief scene with the girl in the red coat. So if you want to do a film that kind of mixes color and black and white, you make the determination whether it would qualify or not, okay? Go ahead and do that. But this is a film that Spielberg himself called one of the most important European films about the Holocaust, Korczak, okay, about Janusz Korczak, an educator who took his children into the concentration camps, the children that he looked after as like a school principal. He was with them in the concentration camps. Really tough stuff, but excellent film. Okay, let me insert another honorable mention here. I almost forgot this one. I haven't seen this in years, but this one really fits the bill here today. It's from 1993. It's called Suture. Kind of an art house film noir. It's almost hard to describe. It's about two brothers. One is kind of wealthy, one is not so much. And they meet after their father's funeral. And one of them is targeted in a assassination attempt. He wakes up in the hospital and he believes he might be inhabiting the wrong body. So yes, it's in black and white. The tagline is a thriller where nothing is black and white. So this is a multi-layered film. The two brothers in the film are played by Dennis Haysbert and Michael Harris. Now, Dennis Haysbert, you know from Major League, 24, Allstate commercials. You know that he's African-American. The guy that plays his brother, Michael Harris, is Caucasian. Okay, and they never explain it. It's not addressed at all. It's just, you just have to deal with it and sort of figure out what's going on. It's that kind of a movie that just, it's a head scratcher, but I haven't seen it in some years, but really interesting. And again, this is a film that is working on many different levels, and it almost had to be in black and white to work. Next is an interesting one. As I said, you guys kind of make the rules yourself. This is a film that has a black and white version, okay? And I have reviewed it on my channel, the film Flowers by Phil Stevens. Phil was nice enough to send me his whole filmography a while ago, and I've been going through and reviewing them. He lives in the Philadelphia area, just like me. So Flowers, it's not for everybody. It's about the victims of a serial killer who wake up in the house that the serial killer lives in, and they start working their way up through the floorboards and through the house. And it's a film like no other, but it's brilliant stuff. And he did also send me Flowers Noir, the black and white version. The color looks great. It's quite gruesome. The black and white version is just as good, just as gruesome. Adds something really special. And of course, I have to, well, I forget, let me get it. Of course, I have to include, from this Godzilla box set from the Godzilla site, the Godzilla -1 color disc, another film that has a black and white version. And I have this booklet here. I was able to print out the booklet in English, and it's really interesting. You know, this was not simply a case of taking the color film and pressing a button and turning it into black and white. They had to go paint. They had a team of people working on the minus color version. They had to change all they had to mask out all the faces because they wanted it to look like, the director wanted it to look like films from the 1950s where the actors' faces were highlighted. And then he also says, In regards to Godzilla, it felt like we were gradually adding more detail than in the color version. Since making it in black and white further brings out the texture, he added shading and raised parts that would have been lost in monochrome so that his overall details would be more clearly seen. And then he also says, like, when the shockwave scatters dust and dirt over the area, if it was left as it was, no light would enter and it would look like floating black dust. So they added animation to convey the details of the debris. So they really like worked on this -1 minus color version. Really good stuff. Yeah, so that is my list of some of my favorite black and white movies. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. As I said, go ahead and make your own video and check out Stuart George's Home Movies. Thanks.